Diana?
What do you
Lights.
Diana, is it on?
Wait, bo on się włączył na chwilę, Krzysiek, nie wiem co się dzieje.
Dobrze, on nam zacznie, tylko I just want to know if it's on. Like jest napisane, że jest stream?
Nie.
Are we streaming?
W ogóle nie słyszę was, co jest dziwne.
Nie słyszę.
What?
Nie słyszę was, nie słyszę was, no.
Włącz YouTube'a u siebie, bo ja nie mogę tylu rzeczy naraz robić.
Serio, powiedzcie coś cokolwiek.
Halo.
No nie, słyszę tylko wasz głos, nie słyszę tego, co jest.
Dobrze, nie trzeba.
Właśnie chyba trzeba.
Czekaj, Krzychu coś pisze.
O, jest jeszcze na tym, na YouTube, na żywo.
Dobra, okej.
Nie, to jest stare, sorry. To jest...
Okej, jest
No,
głos.
we are.
Okej.
Wait.
So,
Ale
actu-
czemu ja was nie słyszę?
nie musisz.
Okej.
Dobrze.
Okay.
So, guys, before we start, let's continue the conversation we were having right before we started, which we failed a bit. So we apologize to all our viewers. We had some technical difficulties. You know, after Easter, everything was broken, so it doesn't matter. But we're back, and we want to talk about our Easter break. I think we can
Okay.
start off with that. How was your Easter break, guys? Passover or holidays, whatever it is you do.
So now you started because I was already like telling all my story and like I'm gonna after continue.
you have to just
All
chill
right.
out.
So I went to the Polish Ocean
Ooh,
side.
nice. The
Uh,
Baltic.
It was the Baltic. It was beautiful. It was fun. There was nobody there. I highly recommend it.
When there's nobody there.
Yes.
Which is ironic, because
No.
if you recommend it to everyone, everyone is going to be there and going to be like, oh, Marco recommended, nobody's here, but
If you do get a chance to go up there, you should go, no matter
Yeah.
what time of year it
it's
is.
a good stuff. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
You, Piotr? How
Well-
was your Passover?
My
or Easter?
I prefer to call this Easter. My
Well, it's
parents
two
came by
different
to Warsaw. They were staying at Novodlu with my brother,
Ooh.
and I know that I already said that, so it won't be that funny. But like,
but nobody else
yeah.
heard us. So.
so as I said, my mom for the first time they needed to clean windows for the Jesus, so at least like we were like having like pretty chill time. Actually, one thing which I missed it like we have in the Silesia where I'm coming from, like the traditional soup. Obviously, like we didn't were cooking, so we were like we had the service. The breakfast was pretty good, but it was not like as traditional as at my home.
Yeah,
But
Warsaw one is better. So yeah, about the Windows thing, I already said it, but I'm gonna say it again. So let's pretend that we didn't hear this before.
Yeah.
So Easter or Passover will happen no matter if you clean or don't clean your windows, right?
Yeah.
And this is one thing I already told you guys this, but this is one thing when I was small. My parents and like my family always told me like, oh, clean up your room because, you know, all the guests are coming over for dinner and stuff. And I was thinking to myself, well, why should I clean up my room if the dinner and breakfast is not gonna be in my room, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of my thing. Never mind that. So we want to start talking about something that has happened recently in regards to Easter and the holidays in Sri Lanka. So in Sri Lanka in the recent time there was a nasty extremist attack, and we would like to talk about that and talk a little bit about the human nature in general connected with this event because we feel it's important. So how did you guys react when you heard about this, this situation?
So as I was saying before, I had the chance to live in Asia for quite a long time. I was living in Thailand for over 1 year. I was associating with the Buddhist and kind of get to know the Buddhist culture, and I've seen the problems and struggles which they have, for example, on the south border of Thailand with Malaysia, and the fights with the Muslim guerrillas in the forests because they are like fighting for the land. They want to have autonomy, but anyways, like for what I've seen, it's that we Europeans, we are not actually well aware of what's going on in Asia. Like for example, when I come to Bangkok, 2 years before me living there, it was like huge terrorist attempts where like actually 50 people died and literally no one heard about it in Europe. And right now with Sri Lanka, this is what we were talking before our audition started, that like actually it's just like goes. Like for example, Notre Dame, it was all over the world. Sri Lanka, yeah, as well, but not as much popular news as for example Notre Dame.
My thoughts go out to people who've unfortunately lost their life and the families who are affected by it. And I guess to go off what Arthur said, yeah, we don't really understand like what the like 80% of the population in Sri Lanka is Buddhist,
Mm-hmm.
10% is about Christian. There seems to be even given like any strife or conflict in that area, this doesn't seem to be isolated just to Sri Lanka. Like there was
Yeah.
probably some outside group, maybe in Middle East that helped them develop this attack. And
Apparently, they were associated with the Al Qaeda. So
there was I was reading that there were some members from Sri Lanka that have fought in Syria and Iraq and
And
Middle East, and that they're probably communicating with those members.
And you know that's pretty sad which event they choose, right? Like the Easter were actually for the Christians. That's one of the because there's like division. Like yeah, we do celebrate the most the Christmas time, but actually the most important day in a year are actually Easter because then is the whole story on which is based the New Testament means that
The rise.
Jesus was reborn. Like
Yeah.
I mean, like he uprised, and like that's all the core of the Christianity, and that's what we should celebrate the most. And they choose this day to attack, where, for example, the kids with families they were celebrating this day. It was Saturday, right, or Sunday?
Sunday.
Sunday. So yeah, it's the most important day. Like everyone who's not even like in Poland attempting to the church like each Sunday, usually then they goes to the church to celebrate this day. Like, and that's pretty sad. What I mean, I know why terrorists are doing this because you know it's like that. It's the effect of
I don't
the
think-
spread of information.
No, because like I don't get why terrorists are doing this because it should be by definition a
Mhm.
terrorist is one who rebels against a certain system, a certain government to instill fear in the society because he opposes a certain regime or whatever, kind of borderline revolutionary. But how can you just go around killing people who are attempting to become better people, who are engaging in, in simply going to church? I remember the Christchurch attack in New Zealand. It
Yeah.
was also an attack on people who were simply, engaging in their own beliefs, not harming anybody, trying to be better people. And actually, I want to come back to the casualties of it. There was like 200 more or less. The numbers are still coming in. 200 or around that are dead, and there's around 500, and the number is still growing. Injured, heavily injured. And I realized that a lot of the times we usually care about the kill count more than about
About injured.
about actually the total, because we should say that the total of this whole that the total of people affected by this is probably in the thousands, if not hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah,
because
families.
it's families and stuff, and that's even that it's the ripple effect. I think that is more, that affects more people than just the dead, because here so many people that are injured have PTSD after that. So many of them are injured probably in the heads, in the limbs, that they cannot. So their life is either ended, they're either killed, or they're scarred for life, either mentally, physically, or both. And that's something I think we should talk about. That I mean, not like now we are, but I'm saying in the general sphere of these kind of conversations, we can't just talk about the kills. We also have to mention everybody.
But isn't it like the work, the purpose of these terrorist attempts, not to just kill those people, but to spread the information, this pain inside of these people among like as many people as you can. For example, like within this case, it's gonna be thousands of people like touched by the deaths of their kids, of their wives, like the family
I
members,
remember
right?
they said that the Danish millionaires or billionaires, 3 children were killed in that incident. But here's the thing, I don't understand something. Because from the recent articles that I've been reading, that apparently the Google searches and overall information search for the Sri Lanka compared with Notre Dame was 7-1. So basically, I mean, 7 times more people around the world Google searched information about Notre Dame than about Sri Lanka. And this is an interesting thing because terrorists, media is essentially the terrorists' greatest tool. It's best a way of spreading information, right? They do an attack. They know if they do an attack in the Western world, they know that it's gonna spread around the world, right?
Mhm.
Like remember the Bataclan in France, or when all the other terrorist attacks happen. the information spread immediately. But in Sri Lanka, if you do it in those, for example, I remember also there was, I think in 2012 or some more or less, I remember when Boko Haram also captured around 300 girls during I think it was also Easter or some other holy day in Nigeria. The information was kind of, it wasn't as popular. And to me, that's weird. Why would terrorists attack a country that, if it's not a Western country, they clearly didn't want to do it for the spread of their information, for the spread of their beliefs. They wanted just to kill people at this point. Because a terrorist would attack any Western country. They shouldn't have.
Yeah, but go ahead.
I think we're never going to be able to find an answer why people do these horrendous acts of violence against other humans, because people have been asking that question
I think we'll find an answer, but we won't understand it.
Yeah, and I don't think we'll ever find an answer that's suitable for what they did. But to go off what you said, I think why people Google search more Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame is an image not only of France, not only of Western culture, but an image of EU, and it's been around for 800 years. It's millions of people visited it.
Okay.
It's more of a, and then if you look at people's use of internet, a lot more people use of internet in Western society and Western culture than there is in Eastern culture, because it's just haven't been the ability. But I just want to, sure, but I guess you can.
There's a massive difference between a Notre Dame fire, that zero deaths, maybe just somebody choked on some smoke, but it's fine already. But 0 deaths. All the 90% of all the things inside, or 95% of all the goods inside, all the treasures have been rescued.
Yeah.
And it's a fire that, okay, it's an old building. I agree, it's a beautiful building, and it happened. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. It was just a fire. Here, people lost lives, and I don't understand to this day why do we value, in this case, a building over lives, even if it's unproportional to me.
But don't you think that
Maybe
this
I
is
do.
also the purpose of the terrorists, and that's how we should prevent, because their will during these kind of terrorist attempts is to spread the information as much as they can. And for example, it's same case what happened with New Zealand. We shouldn't show that. We should just mention this, but we shouldn't show that, because that's their success. Their success is not in the deaths or injured people. Their success is in the fear of us, of the fear of other people, which they're gonna be thinking before going to Sri Lanka. Oh, few years ago there was the terrorist attempt. I might die as well. And this is their purpose. It's not the purpose of killing just people. For them, it's like how many people are dying because of diabetics. It's like people on war, like I've seen last time statistic, it's like 80,000 or 100,000 people were died during the conflicts, while for example Coca-Cola killed way more people. And it's kind of weird rhetoric. I know what you're gonna claim, that we cannot compare the diabetic to this painful death during the terrorist attempts. Yes, I agree on that, but isn't for example, doing a job for them by spreading all these informations. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't talk about it. Of course, we should talk about it. We should speak loud about it. But for example, their purpose is also not maybe to aim towards the Western countries, but to spread the information among the regions. Because I was reading the Thai news journal, for example, I was reading in the Xinhua news, and all of them, they're speaking about this way more than our Western medias, because this is their society, this is their problems which they are facing every day. We are not facing the problems of, for example, as I mentioned with Thailand, the dispute between the guerrilla Muslims in southern Thailand and their government. We are not facing these problems. They are facing these problems. It's same on Sri Lanka. It's just during these kind of events, as it happened, unfortunately, during the Easter and killed many people. That's the problem, that the way of doing that, and they want to speak up to the world by these certain acts, which I obviously ban, and obviously disargue with this. But as I'm saying, that's why I think we are not talking about it, because even Asian countries, they are they are westernized, most of. They are fascinated by our culture, but are we fascinated that much in Asian culture? Do you see as many people? Yeah, me, but it's because also I've lived there. But
let's
from
count it.
Yeah.
1/3 of us is interested, meaning 1/3 of us.
Yeah, but
the
like
world.
but you know, like from my point of view, I don't find many people which I can discuss about the Asian politics, for example, because most of people like they find it's boring, either it's like overtalked or whatever, right?
I don't think it's overtalked at all. I think it's something. I mean, it's very complicated because it has a long history of colonization, a long history
isolation.
of isolationism, a long history of terrible people ruling these countries and lands. But I think to go back to what you originally stating,
Mhm.
that this is more of a message, that this isn't just an act against the Christians in Sri Lanka. This is a message towards Christians globally. Like, do
Yeah.
not come to Sri Lanka. Do not.
No, I don't think
Do not,
that is the
because
case.
but after this happened, you have all these people canceling their hotel, their trips.
Yes, as
But
a
I also
natural act of anywhere you would go to that has a terrorist.
Yeah,
but
but
but a
this is
lot
the
of
work.
these groups, not only Muslims in this area, but Buddhists in this area, are saying that Christianity and Muslim, for Buddhists attacking Muslims, are a expansion of colonialism. That these are just remnants of colonialism, and that they should not be in these areas.
I mean, here's the thing. We have
And
to
you see
also
attacks
remember-
in India
Mhm.
happening to Christians. You see attacks in Malaysia, in
Yeah.
Indonesia, in
Like-
Bangladesh.
Like Christians,
Thailand.
like Christians are really oppressed in Asia, and like
Yes.
it's not like really like popular topic to talk about, but they are really oppressed, same as Muslims. Like
Yes.
people describe Buddhists as a peaceful religion, like not harming anyone. Each religion, I was like actually last time because of Adam, and he sent me like pretty interesting link because
Oh,
I wanted to attend for the another debate between Peterson and Zizek. And Zizek said really interesting thing. He said that religion and ideology, it's a tool to make good people bad. That was really interesting, and it really like kept in my mind that like the good people are becoming bad because of some sort of ideology, because of some sort of religion, their beliefs. Someone telling them that no, you are good. Yes, you are good, but this person is not,
No.
and that makes him
No,
bad.
no, I mean, I heard that as well,
Mhm.
but I think literally quoting him, I think the opposite is true, because
There we have
re-
Peterson and Zizek.
religion is religion. I mean, religion is flawed, but only because men is flawed. It's not because religion in itself is the ideas are perfect. They're just like with Marxism. The ideas are existential. They're perfect.
Utopian.
Yeah.
Each to his, everyone should have an equal amount. A person should have only that much as he requires. Those are fantastic ideas, but this does not work in reality, because the idea of Marxism is wonderful if you value ideas over people. That's
yeah,
what
and
I
like with Marxism, it's also the fact that like they didn't.
coming back to
yeah.
religion, though, I'm just
Let me
gonna
come back,
just
yep.
two sentences about that. I don't think that's the case. I think it's not, because we can't just say that, oh, because those terrorists attack Christians, that therefore Islam is bad. No, absolutely not. We cannot say that. What I'm saying is radicalized people that have I mean the deliberate misinterpretation of religion and radicalizing of other people for your own cause is the worst thing. Because it's not that you think this is the way, you think that everybody else should think that way. And the radicalization of other people is essentially the most cowardice thing you can ever do. Because all those minds behind those terrorist attacks, I bet they're sitting comfortably, just sitting like this, thinking, what a great job I did. Even though and it's them that's sending all those suicide bombers. They don't want to get killed. They send everybody else to do their dirty work. So I just, oh my God, I'm sorry that I'm a bit agitated, but this is just disgusting.
They are cowards.
This
they are
is just
cowards.
disgusting when there's so many human lives have been taken, and this is what I've been arguing. If a person believes that he or she decides when a person can or which person lives or dies, like in a terrorist attack, that person is no longer part of civilization. That person is not a person anymore. That's what I think. I'm sorry I'm a bit agitated again, but this is just horrible news, and it keeps on happening, and we keep on saying like, oh, we stand united against this, we're going to fight this kind of stuff, and we don't do anything. And this is just annoying to me that these things happen all the time.
I agree with like everything. You mean
Oh,
your anger, your
sweaty.
the the unfortunate thing that we constantly feel like we have to talk, like, it's constantly happening. I mean, I don't. All I guess can say is that I think why it was an attack on Western society and why it was an attack on colonialism is because they also went after hotels and pretty popular hotels by tourists, and they killed a lot of people in those hotels too. But then, like, there was information that the Sri Lankan government had like months prior to this group was radicalized. They raided a place that had massive amounts of weapons and explosives. Why they didn't do something about it earlier? I mean, we're never gonna find an answer again to that. Why that's but
I think it's because also these societies, they are more corrupted. I was facing this situation by myself on the smaller, obviously, scale when I was, like, for example, driving my motorcycle, and policemen usually were catching me just because I was white, and they were getting money from me. It's pretty corrupted society, but like mostly on the lower levels. But according to this, what you said, and what we are talking about, the terrorism, and in Asia, right? Because of Asia, it's becoming the leading civilization right now. Like, Western civilization, it's pretty, like, we are stepping back. We'll see if we're gonna step back, because that's the dilemma of the Thucydides trap. It's Graham Allison, I think, wrote it. Pretty interesting book about it. Fight between possible war between U.S. and China. I mean, in total Asia, because before we had UK and United States, where like UK was first dominant, and they actually give whole power, whole hegemony without any shot fired to United States. I mean, like, we obviously had the history with the Civil War in United States, right? I mean, the secession and all of that. But, like, after all, actually UK give this power back to the United States. We don't know what's gonna happen within China. But in my opinion, we really have to be more focused on the policy, what's going on over there, because actually it implicates more and more on our lives. For example, what's happening in China, it affects our prices in our home. We'll see what's gonna be with the technology 5G provided by Huawei or whatsoever other companies from United States. I mean, like, that's pretty wide topic to which I'm going to, but like, what I'm trying to say, it's maybe also terrorists realizing that right now, if you wanna say something, don't say this in Western countries, say this in Asian countries, because Asian countries are also pretty big civilization with huge amount of information. I was witness of so many fake news. For example, in India, fake news is they making special campaigns because there was happening some lynch on other people just because of some rumors via the internet, which are not happening in our society because we are used to it, to the fake news. We know what is fake news. Right now, when you see the clickbait on Facebook, you're just like looking on it. It's like, okay, it's clickbait. I'm like swiping next. But in these societies, they are not as educated in it. For example, in our university, we even have the fake news classes all about that just. And they do not. They are like really still sort of believe in that because they have also different platforms of communications. For example, in China is WeChat, in Thailand it's Line, and it's way easier and it's way harder to control and it's way easier to spread the information over the groups. So what I'm trying to say and what I'm trying to claim over my really long argument, it's that I think also these terrorist attempts in Asia, they are connected with Al-Qaeda. They might be happening more often.
I wanna link this back a bit to also the U.S. and I wanna have your take on this actually because no, you're both, but I want you to respond immediately right now, and then I wanna hear yours. There was interesting discussion now. There's an interesting discussion now on the U.S. in regards to the response of many Democrats in regards to the attack on Sri Lanka, and I brought up I was looking for this and I found it that, for example, Hillary Clinton, okay, she might not be the head of the Democratic Party, but she's more or less of this kind of minor thought leader of how, would you agree that certain Democrats think? Not the majority, but a certain portion.
Yeah.
a certain portion of Democrats do support her. Therefore,
Okay.
I believe that they listen to her and agree with what she says. in many
Almost
things.
president.
Yeah, almost president. So here's the thing. So comparing Christchurch, remember the mass shooting in Christchurch. She says, "My heart breaks for New Zealand and the global Muslim community. We must continue to fight the perpetuation and normalization of Islamophobia and racism in all its forms. White supremacist terrorists must be condemned by leaders everywhere. Their murderous hatred must be stopped." Okay, pretty good response to targeting the issue. I agree,
And
but
this was done yesterday over the weekend.
no, that was her response to
Christian
Christchurch.
church in
Okay,
Israel,
okay.
Christchurch.
And this is her response to Sri Lanka, which
Okay.
was, I think, posted yesterday or 2 days ago. April 21st, 2019. "On this holy weekend for many faiths, we must stand united against hatred and violence. I'm praying for everyone affected by today's horrific attacks on Easter worshippers and travelers in Sri Lanka." Okay, so my response, and then what do you think about this? So Christchurch, she targets white supremacists. Good. Normalization and perpetuation of Islamophobia. Very good. We should talk about this issue. This cannot happen. Racism in all its forms. Yes. How is Holy Weekend for many faiths? Okay, so Easter worshippers. Okay, so saying Christians now is some sort of taboo thing. And then she says, "We must stand united against hatred and violence." Okay, so she's just broadening this whole thing. She fails to mention that this was a radical Muslim terrorist that carried out the action. So basically, if I punch Piotr or hit you, it's also we must stand up against the same type of violence and hatred. Like why doesn't she recognize? And the same thing with Barack Obama and Theresa May. I won't read them right now. Maybe we can put them later on the screen. But basically, how come whenever there's an incident, and I'm basing it on this incident, whenever there's an incident about radical Muslim terrorism attacking minorities such as Christians, Jews, or other civilians, or even Muslim civilians, why does the left suddenly, why does the Democrats, in this case Hillary Clinton, why does she say that, we must stand against hatred and violence, but when there's a white supremacist, it's immediately, it's white supremacy, that we should stand up to Islamophobia and stuff like that. Your take, sorry for talking so long. And then
So why didn't you also include, say, if you're saying this is a liberal issue, that they're not putting enough attention, enough focus onto Muslim extremism, why isn't that you didn't also include responses by conservative?
Well, I'm just
tweets?
pointing out a certain Democrat. I can look for some Republicans as well.
okay.
But from what Donald Trump responses to both were on point, because he was saying always thoughts and prayers. This was horrible. Even for Notre Dame, he had the same response. This is a horrible thing. And
but that's what
Donald
Hillary
Trump's lexicon is pretty limited. I agree, but he doesn't go off saying, "Oh, this was bad," period. Like he has an equal response. And also with Barack Obama, the same thing. I mean, Barack Obama's response was a bit better, but it's still generalization of hatred and violence whenever there's a Muslim extremist attack. But whenever there's like a white supremacist or attacks off the right on people, then it's automatically white supremacy terrorism. We must stop this hatred. We must continue to fight perpetuation, normalization of Islamophobia. And it's like, yes, I agree with you. But why not carry the same message here?
Well, I'm not gonna justify there.
I'm not asking you.
I think
what is your problem?
I think her response is adequate. I don't think there was anything wrong with
I
her
agree so
response,
too.
honestly.
I think more people should look at like that.
But I mean, she made it. I guess like if you're trying to make a connection of like, well, they're okay with Muslim terrorist attacks versus them less okay with white crimes or white nationality,
yeah,
nationalism.
supremacist stuff.
I don't think there's a connection to maybe between that. I think maybe if you really, really wanted to go to another level and say, well, there's been the National Security Administration or NSA goes in front of Congress every year and gives a public briefing on what they see as being the most serious threat to the United States and Americans. And this year, which they said that white nationalism within the United States is the biggest threat to national security. So that could be her tweets regarding that white nationalism and after the Christchurch massacre could be a homage to that information that is not really being talked about within the Trump administration. That many people, minorities in the United States, say that Trump has done very egregious things in terms of encouraging white nationalism within within the United States. Yes, but saying that both sides were evil.
Yeah.
But in terms of like, again, it's just terrible that it's both crimes are terrible. Both taking of lives are terrible. It's I don't think she's trying to make light of any of those
I think
situations.
we should just be fair to everything.
Yeah, but don't you think and don't you see this sort of the continuation of certain situation that, like, when you look and when we have, for example, the attempts made by the white supremacist over the Muslims in New Zealand, that was huge shock. Everyone was talking how it could happen. But each time when you hear the news that, for example, the suicide bomber in Iraq, like, blow himself up, it's really normal to us already. Like, it becomes really normal to us. Then when it's the Muslim, it's fine. It happens. It happens because they are like, it's still war over there and whatever. But when white persons doing some sort of these kind of acts, it's huge shock among the media all over the world. Like, for example, like, how many terrorist attempts before Christian church we had during the year, and they were not as much shocking to us as this, because it's not happening as often. And I think we got a bit, I know that it's pretty extreme what I'm gonna say, but we got used to it, to this information already.
I agree.
You're turning on the news and you're like, each week you know about like some terrorist attempt, because we are like, we are living totally different lives. We know what's going on in Syria, but anyways, you are going like, you hear in the radio 10 people die like during the today rebellions, and you're going buy a bread and you don't care about it. But when you hear about, like, for example, the shocking news from New Zealand, you cannot even stand that how it could happen. You are just like keep thinking about it.
Because it's a Western, civilized, developed culture. And I think that plays a lot it gets more attention in terms of other national developed countries. And then in terms of, like you saying, it's like you were saying in Thailand, like they were getting a lot more press about the Sri Lanka attack than you see in Western papers. And that's just unfortunately the case. Like, it's just we're becoming numb to it, or is this we're not relating to it, and Western media isn't relating to those events as much. But it is one of the biggest terrorist attacks of this decade.
What should happen to these terrorists now? What do you think? Are you guys for the death penalty for such human pieces of debris?
We were talking already about it, and
but in this case, like, I wanna ask you guys, because I mean, these kind of actions enforce my opinion of the death penalty. We should extract as much information as we can from them. I'm sorry, they made conscious decisions of taking. This is not just some guy going on the streets and shooting. This was a coordinated attack. Bombs were planted everywhere days before. They recovered, I think, 186 bomb detonators from some bus station in Colombo. I'm sorry, this was coordinated. They know what they're going to do. Another thing that the police was warned about this. They didn't do anything about it. But what should happen with those people that took away and affected so many thousands, essentially, of people's lives? What should we do with them? Your opinion?
Isn't you think the death penalty and killing someone the easiest way for him, actually?
No.
I think, to me, more crucial, I mean, like, maybe I've never faced the death, and that's why I have this kind of opinion, but I think more painful for you is when you have the life sentence and you know that you're never gonna leave these walls. For example, I'm gonna lock you in this kind of room. You're gonna be looking on the same picture from your window for next 30 years. You're gonna be know that you're gonna anyways die there. This is death penalty. This is death penalty as well. The life sentence is also death penalty, but it's really extended, and it's way more painful for you because you know that you're gonna die there.
It's not a death penalty. Life is a death penalty in a way because
Yeah,
everyone's
but
gonna
yeah,
die.
but like then someone takes from you the life.
Okay,
Actually, this
so
is the like.
Wait, hold on. Okay,
Yeah.
I have 2 points of view on that. One is kind of based off of the death penalty in the United States, and that it's recently had a lot of issues. Because, for instance, like I agree with you. Like I would like to see them be stuck in a room where it's gray, where they can barely lay down, but they only get 1 hour of sunlight every day.
Yeah.
They're stuck in this room. They can't have entertainment. They can't have. This is torture. I want them
Yeah.
to be tortured for the rest of their life. That's one way of torturing someone. But to go back to my view of death penalty, as in the U.S., not many like they have a lot of issues and lawsuits, and each state is different because some states allow you to be killed differently. But in terms of lethal injection, it's become very difficult because medical companies are not producing it anymore.
They
So
don't want to participate because
Yes.
it's best commercial for them. I've heard.
Yeah, it's just. But in the U.S., it's more expensive to have someone on death penalty
I heard that too.
than to have someone left in prison. And I think it's only an issue in the U.S. because they're able to go through multiple lawsuits that are expensive.
Yeah,
in terms
Asia
of-
it's
But then
different.
it's again, if you have someone locked in a cell, you're paying for the rest of their life to have
Yeah.
medical treatment, to have food
That's
provided to them. And in some countries,
To have humanitarian rights also.
In some
because
countries-
they have to have humanitarian conditions.
like the guy in Norway.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And
Who
I
has
don't
a
want to.
Breivik.
Yeah.
I didn't want to say his name because we don't want to spread. We don't
Oh,
want
yeah.
to glorify terror. That person that killed all those kids in Norway is having 3 rooms.
He's
can
living
work
in
out
a hotel.
computer,
Hotel?
No, if you're gonna see his room, it's hotel.
Oh,
he
okay,
have
okay.
PlayStation.
He
He's like
sued the system for mistreating him because the system was actually, and he was right.
And he won.
Yeah, he won.
Yeah.
And you know why? Because it's the system that says that each prisoner should have humanitarian rights. I'm sorry. So, okay, maybe the conditions in Sri Lanka are different. Maybe it's just like a Moroccan prison when there's, it's just nothing there. However, here's the thing. Those people took away the greatest gift that we have, which is life. So they do not get to share. in my
especially
opinion,
young people, which they
do
can
not
change the
get
world.
to share in the same. They do not get to. I don't want them sharing the same gift I have, because they do not deserve it. They proved that they do not deserve it because they took somebody else's gift.
They don't deserve rehabilitation.
That's what.
And
I
that's
think.
where I think it comes back to. It's like most crimes, most punishment should include rehabilitation. Is where you have that humanitarian rights where you're I committed these crimes, but I'm going to. The state is going to help me rehabilitate. And
Mhm.
yes, I deserve to have some things provided for me. But in terms of someone who, like you said, takes someone's lives and does not deserve to be rehabilitated back into society, who should have no chance going back into society.
I mean, intentional taking of life, because I know there's like, what about car accidents and stuff?
No,
So-
yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
car
yeah.
accidents.
No,
or
no,
like
his-
really, like in the
intentional-
self-protection.
No,
yeah.
These
Self-defense.
terrorist attacks, these mass
No,
murders
Yeah,
don't deserve to be rehabilitated. And so they don't deserve to have this
Screw those
human
guys.
rights,
yeah.
my opinion.
That exactly.
Okay, so last question. I'm gonna throw you guys into the deep waters.
Okay.
But it's related to what we do because I want to be as respectful and I want to dedicate. We want to dedicate this podcast to our thoughts and prayers are with the victims of that terrible attack. So question here is now: do we have free will or is it just an illusion? And the question is, why do people do certain things that they do?
I think we ultimately do have free will, but I think a lot of our
Or is it just an
Ra-
illusion? Michael?
raising-
Maybe you think you do.
Well, if our life, that's my good answer. If our lives, if it would be the possibility that our life would be the simulation, bigger possibility would be that you would be living in a simulation than in your real life. And what you say about the will and do we have free will? Well, that's really attached to the pretty tangible object called conscious. Because actually,
Freudian a bit.
No, I wouldn't say it's Freudian. Freud is already like old when it comes to the his psychoanalysis is pretty old when it comes to the
That's pretty relevant though.
kind. I mean, like right now you're more based on the your behavioralism than.
Well, I mean, Freudian's like.
I mean, like it's
summary
the
is-
core. It's the core.
It's making
obviously.
your unconscious conscious, basically.
Yeah, but what I wanted to say about our will, it's actually we don't know what is our conscious. That's the problem. Because like, what is your free will? Do you realize sometimes, like I was reading pretty interesting book written by Yuval Noah Harari, Homo Deus, 21 Questions for 21st Century, and Sapiens. 3 of his books, I highly recommend them. They are really changing, really like they're open-minding. Because he's using also like many arguments. It's not just another sci-fi story. So what he's claiming and he's asking the question, how often you look on someone, and do you think that your certain thought about this person comes when you look at him, or already it was appearing in your brain, and just because you saw that person, it's triggered, and you saw that person. And that's the same sort of thinking with the free will. Does we have free will, or actually our thoughts, which they are already deep in our brains, they are steering us? Because this is really, as I said, like it's pretty tangible object. As we're talking about the conscious, we are having right now we are facing the times when we are developing AI, and actually that's also problematic, because how we can develop and understand something what we didn't discover yet. We don't know how we are thinking. We don't know whole processes of our understanding certain situations. For example, they discovered, that's pretty interesting, about the free will and our judgment. That's pretty interesting example. They've done the research on the people which they had epilepsy, and to prevail the epilepsy, they were cutting the connections between the right side of the brain and the left side. They were cutting, and the left side of the brain is responsible of this imagination, of this adding a story, and the right side is just like about what's going on right now. And imagine that they show on the one picture shovel, and on the another one snow. And first, like, because the right side is staring the left eye, and the left eye right side, so they were showing to the left side. So like actually this left side of the brain didn't saw what left eye saw. And imagine that after, when it comes to this imagination part of our left side brain, it turns out that we are making stories. We are able to do something which we actually didn't see. And this same thing with the free will, that actually, in my opinion, the thoughts are something what's coming from our past, and we are like programmed as to learn all the time. So does free will exist? I'm hoping for that. But I would say that researchers proves that actually our body stirred us, but first, if we are talking about the free will, we have to say like, is it like driving our body, or is it driving also our conscious? Because that's also two separate things during our times. Sorry for these deep thoughts, multiple of these deep thoughts.
I mean, I think we for me, it's more of a question of, is it free will, or is it something that we would do nonetheless? Meaning, that is our future already kind of planted, and we just do things. We think that, I could have done that, but what if like the universe already said like you're gonna do that, you're gonna think you're gonna do this, but you're gonna do that either way. Like just our, for example, sitting positions. Why am I sitting here? Is that free will, or is it something I would have done anyway? Is it something conscious or unconscious? My summarize, like, I think this is way too complicated for the three of us, for three of our young minds, but it's good that we're thinking about this. So next time we're going to talk about some more deep things. My final sentence final sentences. Marco.
But Marco didn't say yet about the free will. Let him talk.
No idea. It's a free will.
He said free will.
Okay.
I just.
It's done. Okay. So the few words.
Thank you to our producers and people that set this up for us.
And our viewers.
Our viewers.
Yeah. See you next week.
Yeah. My few words. I'm sending all my thoughts to my Asian friends. And like really, I'm feeling so sorry for the whole nation of Sri Lanka, because it was really touching. Also for me, because I was living there for quite a long time and nothing happened to me, which I'm really thankful. I don't know to everything what was surrounding me, people and whatsoever the society. And yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks our producer for letting us here.
And lastly, but not leastly, I will say yet again thank you. Thoughts and prayers. Stay strong, Sri Lanka. Stay
Yeah.
strong, everybody. And to comment on the free will, I think because the brain thinks it's the most important part of the body, I think we're never gonna have an answer because the brain is pretty biased. Because it thinks that it's the most important thing, therefore we're protecting it. So thank you. This was the Convo. Next week we're gonna talk about something super special, as we usually do.